Hey everybody, Blaise here, and I've got a really big treat for you. I've got my friend Tony Cipriano here. Well, actually, we're with him. We're in his studio, in his garage, here in Central Florida, and we're gonna have a lot of fun because for two things. First of all, you're gonna get to see Tony's sculptures. We're gonna hear his background. Tony and I have known each other for 30 years, actually. It's 30 years this year. So it's pretty cool. We've got a long history, all starting at Walt Disney Feature Animation. And but also, a lot of you guys out there have been asking about a digital sculpting course, something in Zbrush, and Tony's the guy. So we came to Tony and we asked him if he could do something for us, and he said, sure. So here we are, and we're in his studio. We just got done spending 3 days with him, creating the entire course. He did a great job doing a maquette of our character from Snow Bear. And a lot of you guys out there are already familiar with Snow Bear. But I don't want to keep talking. I want to let Tony do some talking here. So Tony and I have known each other for 30 years. We met at Walt Disney Feature Animation when you were an intern just coming in.
Yep.
You interned with my brother, Travis.
Yes, that's right. Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast, yeah. And I still remember going over to you guys' apartment complex where you guys were staying and swimming in the pool.
That's right.
But anyway, we're in Tony's garage where obviously you can see we've got hundreds and hundreds of sculptures. And
spiders.
And spiders. But one of the biggest themes you'll see are, you know, the old classic 1940s, 30s Hollywood monsters. Some of the, great actors of the 30s and 40s and a lot of that kind of stuff. And then also one of my favorites is Frank Frazetta. But I was wondering if you wanted, let's go over here. Maybe we can go through and you can talk about some of your sculptures.
Yeah, sure. This stuff down here on the floor, I don't know if you notice this stuff. This is how important reference is. I can't stress that enough.
Reference.
This is, I spend 2 days just gathering reference and printing it out, and this was for just this little bust right here.
With the candy.
Of James Cagney, but I gathered so much reference. It's so important, and a lot of people just don't seem to, they think it's cheating or something. But anyway, that's all my reference boards and stuff. You'll see it all over the place. And a lot of this stuff, these are comic books that I had as a kid and model kits that I had as a kid, just for inspiration and stuff like that.
Now, all of these sculpts that are up here, were they all traditionally sculpted or any of them digitally sculpted?
The ones in green and red are the original. That's clay.
Right.
So that's it. What you see is the
because
original.
There's a lot of, well, the reason I'm asking is there's going to be a lot of students that are going to be watching this that maybe have never sculpted traditionally before and have only digitally sculpted. How important do you think it is to at least have some kind of dabbling in the traditional world?
I'm kind of biased, because that's what world I'm from. But I think it's huge. And
did you find that it helped you when you switched over to digital?
Fantastic. Yes, absolutely helped. A lot of people who are working digitally, they've never touched clay before, and you gotta get your hands in the clay, and it helps you, see.
It helps you think more spatially. Yeah.
To be honest with you, ZBrush feels like a combination of sculpture and illustration. It feels almost more like illustration.
Like drawing.
Because you're drawing with a pen on a flat surface, and you just turn it around and you draw the back. It feels to me more like drawing than it does sculpture. But the tactile.
Which, by the way, Tony's a great artist, drawing artist as well. He used to do some of the best caricatures in our studio. Matter of fact, I've got one of your little oil paintings of me hanging up in my studio.
Yeah. All of these are clay. This is all original clay. It's some of it is collecting dust. Some of it is crumbling, drying out and crumbling. You can see all the dust all over these things and spider webs and stuff. But that's good. Frankenstein, he likes the spiders. But this is it. It's oil-based clay. I put it in these little tins. Put it in the oven. And
so the oven just loosens it up?
Yeah, that little toaster oven right there.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of this is digital. I don't have a good enough printer yet.
Well, that's why I wanted.
this is
I didn't think any of it was digital, and that's why I wanted people to see.
That's digital. That's a nice print.
Yeah, I wanted people to see kind of the workmanship, the quality that you did by hand, not in there with a little cursor, you know, pulling up little pixels, but actually doing this by hand. And the amount of, I mean, this one right here just kills me. All of them do. I mean, they're just incredible.
Yeah, it's fun. It's much more fun, I have to admit.
Laurel and Hardy.
But unfortunately, for production, there's no beating the digital. It's quicker, it's faster, it's easier to make revisions.
Yeah.
It's easier to cut apart and mold. It's easier to, you can send a file to China.
Well, we were talking the other day about the shortcuts and the cheats and the things like that, and how, you know, you said there's a pattern for the skin for a suit, and it just goes, it goes on, and you got a cape, and it goes, and it blows in the wind. And
yeah, this is a good example. It took me weeks to go. I went to Michael, a craft store, and I bought these little tiny chains, and I had to embed every little row of chains into the clay. And with Zbrush, there's a chain brush. And you just, you know, it's practically you press a button, the whole thing's covered in chains.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of advantages. But this is still much more fun for me, just to get my hands in the clay.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much great stuff in here. I love all your Frazetta stuff that you've done as well. And you've done a lot more than just what's here. I mean, we've sold a lot. Frazetta was one of the first, you know, before I could afford buying books when I was in middle school, I used to go to B. Dalton bookstore in the mall and grab the Frazetta books and sit on the floor in the bookstore and just try to memorize them all and then go home and draw it.
Yeah, he was the master. I got to meet him.
Yeah.
All of that whole shelf is Frazetta. Just sketches. These are just they're falling apart now. The arms are falling off and stuff.
But a lot of those were just sketches of his.
They're just they're pencil sketches, and these were actually done for the Frazetta.
Yeah.
He art directed this one, which
Wow.
was fantastic.
And we got King Kong. That's King Kong, not Mighty Joe Young, right?
Yeah, that's King Kong. You can see my reference. This is my favorite movie ever. As a little kid, it was on every Thanksgiving. It was my favorite movie, and the animation was just mind blowing. And so I always wanted this. I've always wanted to sculpt this at the last scene of King Kong.
Who animated that originally?
That was Willis O'Brien.
But Ray Harryhausen was an assistant, wasn't he?
I don't think so. He was too young, but
I thought
that was his hero.
Gotcha.
They worked together on Mighty Joe.
Oh, that's what it was.
Right.
Okay. So and you've gotten to meet and have dinner and everything else.
Yeah, I met Harryhausen too. I was lucky at Disney.
Yeah. There's another great story with you that is completely unrelated to sculpture, but I just think it's a funny story about how you ended up designing the logo for the Mighty Ducks hockey team.
Yeah.
You know, the Mighty Ducks hockey team, one of the greatest logo designs ever made for hockey. Tony designed it, and it's a funny little story that you tell. I don't know if I want to put you on the spot, but I mean, we can always cut it out if
the part about the baseball hat.
Yeah,
that's what I got for that, a baseball hat.
I got a baseball hat.
I thought I was going to retire, but I got a baseball hat. But yeah, it was a company-wide
contest. Eisner did, right?
Michael Eisner was the CEO, and he announced that they bought a hockey team, and they named it the Mighty Ducks, which was
right after the movie.
Like all the Canadians in the studio threw up when they heard that. The Mighty Ducks for a professional hockey team.
Yeah, right.
And so they just threw it out there, and of course all the animators were submitting sketches. So I grew up with the plastic goalie mask, you know, the Jason kind of. So I just did a duck with the holes in the face, and I didn't think anything was going to come of it. And then my boss, Max, said, "Hey, they picked your logo." And he hands me an envelope and said, "From the desk of Michael Eisner." And I thought it was a giant check.
Of course, yeah, you're going to be able to
retire. 2 tickets to an exhibition game and a baseball hat.
There you go.
But Disney's contracts were like that thick, and they were ironclad, so anything you did under their roof was theirs.
That was a lesson learned. I always thought that was funny. So, one of the great Tony Cipriano stories.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, sure. What are all these heads? I was looking at this the other day.
Those are all statues and toys that I've done over the years. I used to make a mold of the head. These are all sideshow collectibles. There's a bunch of Marvel statues. This is going to be the Invisible Man soon.
I can see him.
You failed already.
Epic stuff. Yeah, that's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was a big action figure. That's the Silver Surfer. They came with 4 heads.
Wow.
Mad Monster Party. Yeah, it's just a bunch of action figures
all
and
sculpts that you've
statues.
done.
Yeah.
Now, did you sculpt them this size?
Yeah, that's all 1-to-1.
Holy moly!
And that's all of those were done
Really?
in clay and wax. That's not digital, which is a nightmare.
So, what I can't believe is I
at that
watched
scale.
you all weekend working at your computer, and you don't wear glasses yet, do you?
I need them to see, not at the computer for some reason. I sit back far enough.
I can't do it. And I'm looking at this, so I can't do it without my glasses.
Yeah, I wear them for
Holy
driving.
moly, the details! I can't believe you did that all 1-to-1.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
the
see
teeth.
like,
How do you do the teeth like that?
yeah, with a tiny little pick and the pores and stuff in the face. It's just a tiny little pick, and you got to sit there and poke.
Wow.
And in ZBrush, there's a pore brush.
Yeah.
There's a pore brush where you could just run the pen across the and it just covers the face pore. The first time I saw it, I couldn't believe it, and that's what sold me on ZBrush, I think.
Wow.
What about the big giant guy in front of it? What's that?
That's a movie. A Japanese company commissioned that, and his brother is over there. That's the brown gargantua and the green gargantua. So, it's an old,
I remember that.
War of the Gargantuas.
Yeah, I
it's a
remember
Japanese
that.
movie.
Yeah.
So a Japanese company commissioned those.
Oh, the elk. I see you got an elk going there.
Yeah, his head kind of lost his head in the move down to Florida. That's a Frazetta troll.
Yeah.
This is what I like to do, the nudes. This
Yeah.
is what I prefer, nudes and portraits. And Universal Monsters, of course. So, this was a 3D print, just a recent job. Beautiful print. This was ZBrush.
This was?
Yeah, this was all ZBrush.
Wow. And you did it. You sculpted it in ZBrush.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
But look at the print. I mean, the print is perfect.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of printer. This is an extruder printer where it spits out the.
It's not very detailed.
Yeah, the
This
resolution.
detail it's perfect.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
like you said.
resolution.
And
is
did you have to do a lot of cleanup on it?
He sent me a sample of it. I didn't. This is what it looks like when it comes out of the printer. So that's the cleanup you got to do. You got to just snip all of this.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, but it's resin. It sands well. It's not that bad to clean up. You know?
Oh, okay. So you just clip it all out?
Yep. It kind of grows it out of the resin.
Wow.
I guess that way.
All right. So, I mean, we've seen a whole bunch of really cool. This is really cool. This Benjamin Franklin relief. Look at that. This is all really cool stuff. What are you doing nowadays?
I took a job. I came back to Florida about 4 years ago, and I took a teaching job. And then Disney offered me. I spent about 1.5 years there, but Disney Consumer Products offered me a job, and they merged with Imagineering, and
Yeah.
I always wanted to work with Imagineering, so I took the job, and it was mostly consumer. It was ornaments, cookie jars, and a lot of stuff for the new Star Wars park, a lot of collectibles and stuff. And then Universal announced they were going to build 4 new theme parks. So they were hiring, and I liked the subject matter. And they also said, we're going to let you sculpt in clay. We're going to be doing maquettes in clay.
That's
so
great.
that we're going
was
to do
it.
digital and clay, but
Yeah.
Disney was all digital.
Yeah.
So that kind of sold me. So I jumped and went over to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun. I'm working on the new theme parks. Can't talk about it, of course, because of non-disclosure. They haven't announced it yet what the actual parks are going to be, but
Is it a lot of character-based stuff like you're doing
Yeah.
here? And
yeah, it's some architectural stuff, some like
That's great.
but a lot of character stuff.
And since the whole virus thing has happened, you've been working from home, right?
Yeah, I have some stuff here that I took home with me, but most of it is digital. Working from home is good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, so when I first met Tony 30 years ago, he had come in as an intern in from New York. He's obviously from New York. We used to make fun of his accent. But all we knew is that he could draw. He drew the funniest drawings of all of us. We really loved it. And then he started talking about how he liked to sculpt, and we always just thought it was kind of a hobby, not really realizing that this was his first love. You went to school for illustration, right?
Yeah.
But you were sculpting. Or you really loved to sculpt.
I didn't sculpt until I got down here and I saw the maquettes.
Yeah.
Once I saw the maquettes, Ruben Procopio and Kent Melton were doing maquettes. And to be honest, I hated animation. I was an in-between. I never got to be a full-fledged animator, but I was...
Yeah, you were stuck chiseling out cleanup drawings.
I was doing cleanup drawings, and it was very, very tedious. You would get a stack of the Beast, and he'd be talking, and nothing would be moving except his lips. And like you'd have to trace all those hairs like 40 times a day, and I was going crazy.
So you made the transition. You actually left. You went back to New York.
I did.
You kept sculpting.
I'd had enough of that.
Yeah, and then you made that transition into doing maquettes. And I see boxes of stuff that you've got here. And I see boxes that have my characters in them, or at least one that has one of my characters. I actually have this sculpture. I want to see what you've got in here.
Yeah, there's.
So you were hired to do the maquettes for Mulan, right?
Yep, that was the first movie that I got to do sculptures on. I begged them to let me do it. Kent was busy. He was working on Hercules.
Hercules,
He didn't want to go from California to Florida, back to California. So that was my shot.
So
yeah,
I animated Yao in the movie. Let's see what you got.
Let's see.
Paper.
They're in pieces. They're not.
Well, I figured because don't they get destroyed when you do the
Yeah,
mold?
usually they're completely destroyed. But I figure when I'm retired.
These are the original like chunks of pieces,
Yeah,
which are pretty much worthless, right?
They're kind of just rubble at this point.
Yeah.
That's Chifu. This should be Yao.
That was the biggest kind of chunk.
This one was fun. I remember Ling was a nightmare, but I remember
Yeah, there he
that.
is. There he is. Yeah, that's Yao. I've got that one at home, all in one piece.
Well, yeah, the mold making process.
I don't want you to break it any more than it is.
No, that's okay. One of these days I'm gonna sit down and oh, this is not bad. This is in decent shape.
Yeah.
You could see the wire armature kind of saved it from.
Yeah, because I mean, really, what we hired Tony to do is not so much this, but to get us the resin cast that we could hand out to everybody. This is kind of part of the garbage, that, so to speak, that's left over. But it's the original sculpt.
Yeah, it's the clay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see
And what I love,
it's crumbling. I'm holding it, and it's crumbling into little pieces.
I gotta be careful.
No, it's okay.
I remember,
It's the nature of the
I actually remember
clay.
doing the drawing for this pose, and that's like 25 years ago.
Yeah, I may have those drawings. I may have the original drawings and the.
And one of the things I loved about this, or one of the things that was really hard about the design conceit for our characters in Mulan, was how flat they were. Remember?
Right.
They were just really flat designs,
Right.
and we had to translate them somehow into 3D.
Yeah.
And I thought you did a really great job doing that.
Yeah, Brother Bear was much easier. It was more based in reality.
It was like a
dimensions.
simplified reality, right?
Yeah, this was ridiculously graphic, like Shang's face and Fazu's
Yeah.
head. We worked for weeks on that head.
Yeah.
But it was just a matter of like breaking down the planes and finding
Yeah.
the,
Well, that's very
happy
cool.
medium.
Super, super cool. It's so, I always love, because, one of the cliches they always say is that these characters become real to you after a while when you animate them. And so it's neat to revisit this and see this, because all of a sudden it takes me back 25 years ago to when we were making it. And this guy's totally in my head.
Yeah. Can I tell a story that's kind of off color or not?
Sure, yeah.
Not off color, but
Go ahead.
what he used to do, I would have this on my desk, and I would go out to lunch, and I would come back, and I would have notes from him. You know, okay, change, make the nose a little bit wider, blah blah blah. But there would also be sometimes appendages added to the sculpture. So I'll just leave it. I'll just leave that.
We added anatomy.
Anatomy list.
Yeah, we added anatomy because you had to be correct. And we were adolescents.
Yes, we were all 20 years old, so it was like the height of comedy back then.
That's pretty cool.
That's really
Yeah,
cool.
I'm surprised he's in such good shape. He's cracking, but I could repair that.
Yeah.
You could see the mold line where the mold maker put him in a clay bed and poured silicone over him. I'm surprised it's in such good shape. Most of these are in like
Yeah, they get
bags,
destroyed in the mold making process.
yeah. Most of them are like bags of
Rubble.
So it's almost not even worth it. But I said, you know what, if you're gonna get rid of them,
And this is what's really great is, this is before digital sculpting. And so you can see how, 25 years ago, it was all done by hand, and here it is.
yeah.
And so, I really do think it's given you that advantage switching over to
I think
the
so.
digital realm. I mean, I know being a traditional painter, when I went over to paint digitally, it really helped me in the way that I approach working digitally.
I think so. I think it helps. I see a lot of people, digital sculptors, who have no background in traditional, and sometimes, the poses are a little flat, or the detail is like outrageous, and they have covered in,
Yeah.
tertiary stuff. But if you look closely at the forms underneath, it's like,
Yeah, it tends to be a little
yeah. But-
stiff.
So I think spending all that time, but I just wish I had more time. Now it's hard to learn new software, and these young people are growing up with the software,
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm doing the best I can.
And it's great. Well, it's what I like about these times is the amount of give and take. Everyone wants to learn kind of the old ways we used to do stuff, and we're picking up stuff from all these kids. And
Oh yeah,
it's really cool.
there were no tutorials like this that we're gonna do.
Yeah.
There was no internet when we were doing it.
Right.
What's in there?
This is this one was one of my favorite sculpts that you did. I've got one of all. This is from Brother Bear. So Brother Bear, I was lucky enough to have co-directed with our good friend
Speaking
Bob
of
Walker.
bear, this is a Frank Frazetta polar bear.
All right, it is. Holy
It's
moly.
the Silver Warrior.
Yes.
That'll never get finished. More polar bears. They're Frazetta polar bears.
Yeah.
Not kind more polar bears.
There she is. I think that's her.
And another
More polar bear.
That's his legs. All right. I think this is most of her.
Oh, it's all taped up. Sorry, man.
No, that's cool. That's his sled.
So in my storage unit, I've got all of the sculpts that you did for Brother Bear. I've got every single one of them, including this one. And this is probably my favorite out of all of them.
But it looks like I primed this one
I think you did. I remember you doing that, I thought.
with a gray primer because the pink Sculpey,
It's hard to see the details.
yeah, it's translucent. Oh, you know what? This one was in peanuts, and the peanuts melted.
Oh,
Yeah, this one is in a little bit worse shape.
that's okay. Look at the hair details. That's one of the things I loved about this one.
Wow.
Oh, her face is gone.
Oh my, is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's not gone. It's just cut apart
Oh,
from
yeah.
molding. Yeah, you would have to cut that off.
See,
to
there's
the mold.
big snout coming out. But you can see here, look at come up here on the front and look at the fur detail that he got on the front there. This is the mother bear. This is the bear that Kenai kills out on the glacier. or not in the glacier, but up on the rock. This is the one that causes the glacier to collapse.
Wow, it's like mold on it and everything. Yeah, so her snout is probably in a different box. That'll take me another 20 years to find that.
But you can see all the anatomy and everything is there. That's what's, you know, and I love the gesture that comes through. Rune Beneke was the animator of this character and really did a great job designing her and animating her. He did all the animation without reference.
Wow.
The guy is insane.
He's a director now, right?
I'm not sure. I think he's over at DreamWorks.
Oh.
But yeah, there she is. Mama.
That's
The faceless mama.
Usually I'll bulk something up with foil, but I think that's pretty much solid. Disney was buying the clay, so that's solid clay. That's why it's cracking so much too. Yeah, all the little styrofoam peanuts melted onto her. But I could restore it, I think someday. I'll
Very
try.
cool. Wow, these are awesome. So cool to see this. But anyway, like I said, so we've got Tony, and he's going to be doing our course on his approach to Zbrush. And it's going to be all the way from start, how you open that file, the interface, all of that, all the way to creating a complete digital maquette. And he's going to be doing one of our characters, our main character, the snow bear, or the polar bear from our short, Snow Bear. So we're really excited about that. But it's been great. We've, like I said, we've spent the last 3 days here doing this with Tony, and I don't get to see Tony very often over the last 30 years. So it's been really, really nice to get to catch up and spend time together and reminisce and talk about all our old exploits and all our old friends and all the good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy the course. I think we're going to go ahead and attach a free little section to the course, to this video. We hope you guys enjoy it. And that's it. That's all I got. So here we are in Tony Cipriano's awesome sculpture studio. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, you guys.
See you soon. Hi guys, my name is Tony Cipriano and I am a sculptor. I have about 30 years under my belt at this point. I started out traditionally with clay and wax and stuff like that. And more recently, I've moved on to digital sculpting. I started my career with Disney feature animation in the 90s. I worked on Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and Mulan and Brother Bear as an animation artist and a sculptor. And then I took about 20 years and worked as a sculptor in the toy industry, in the collectibles industry. During that time, in those 20 years as a freelancer, I worked on collectibles and figurines and action figures, mostly superhero stuff, like for Sideshow Collectibles and Hasbro and Hallmark, Christmas ornaments and stuff like that. I'm now working with Universal Creative, working on theme parks as a sculptor, traditional clay and Zbrush, which brings us to this class. I met a guy named Blaise at Disney, and I'm going to be doing a class for him, working on one of his drawings and doing a digital maquette of one of his drawings. And I'm going to be working closely with him in Zbrush. And I'm going to take you through the process. We're going to do the sculpting, the painting, poly painting in Zbrush, and then I'm going to show you quickly how to do some renders and some 3D printing. So I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. Okay, so let's open up the software. I'm using version 2019. Zbrush has since upgraded to 2020, but the interface is pretty much the same. So the first thing I do, I approach ZBrush a little bit differently than most people do. Coming from a clay background, I kind of treat everything as if I'm working in clay. So the first thing, I probably start 90% of my sculptures with a sphere, just a basic primitive shape. So I go over to this little icon here, this simple brush icon, and I find this sphere, and I just drag it out. Now, there are two buttons that you need to hit before you can start sculpting. First one is right here, it's the edit button. So let's drag out our sphere. Whoops. Hold on, let's do that again. Simple brush, sphere, drag it out. Now the first thing you do is hit this edit button. Okay, now I can edit. I'm going to turn on the polyframe so you can see. Now I can edit this sphere, but I'm not ready to sculpt yet. First, if I click on this sphere and try to sculpt, I'm going to get this warning that says, to enable sculpting, please convert this primitive to a poly mesh. So what I got to do is just hit this button right up here, make poly mesh 3D. And you'll notice all these menus are going to drop down. Okay, now this is geometry. Now this is three-dimensional. I could sculpt on that. Apparently ZBrush was originally created as a 2D or a 2.5D software, but it's become the gold standard for 3D sculpting. So that's what we're going to be doing. I don't know much about the 2D end of it. So you need to click this button. Make sure you hit this Make Polymesh 3D. Okay, so if I turn on the floor right here, that's going to give me a grid underneath my object, my model. And if you turn it to the bottom, you see this blue line? That's the Z axis, which means the depth, back and forward. The red line is the X axis, which means horizontal. And the Y axis is the green, which goes up and down. If I hit the X button, the X key, you're going to see two cursors appear. That means symmetry is on. Okay, so that's a very useful tool. I'm just going to grab a move brush and I'll show you what that does. Whatever I do to the left side of the model is going to affect the right side of the model. And that's going to be a very, very important tool that I wish I had with clay, but I didn't. So I can sculpt one half of this model and the computer is going to do the other half. Okay? And the other great feature about ZBrush is Control Z will go backwards. I can go all the way back. I'm just hitting Control Z and I go right back to the beginning. And here's your history right here, this little slider. Okay, so that's a great feature in ZBrush. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this interface. This is pretty much the default interface I'm using. You'll notice a couple of buttons up here that I put there, and you'll notice brushes down here that are my favorite brushes that I put there. But everything else is pretty much default. You can customize this interface very, very easily by just going to Preferences, Configure, Enable Customize. And when that turns orange, now I can drag all of these buttons up here are found in these menus down here. They're there. You just got to find them. As you can see, these drop-down menus there's so many of them. But don't let that intimidate you at all, because I only use a handful of these buttons right here. But it takes a while to find them, so that's why I put them up here. So anyway, let's configure this interface. I'll show you how to do that really quick. Okay, so in order to configure this interface, I just go to Preferences, I hit Enable Customize, it turns orange, and then all I need to do is find a button that I use often. Let's say we want Crease Polygroups. All I do is hold Control and Alt, grab the button, and just drag it up here. And it's that easy. So now you want to save it. So you go back to Preferences and hit Store Configuration. And it will ask you, you say OK. Now the configuration is stored, and every time you start ZBrush, that little button, Increase Polygroups, is going to be up there. So you don't have to go dig through these drop-down menus to find it. I think you're supposed to unclick Enable Customize too. So there you go. Now the nice thing about this is, if I were to do a demo at, say, a college, and I wanted to bring my interface with me, I was going to use their machine, I can save this interface right here. Save UI. Save user interface. You click that. It'll ask you. You can name it. Whoops. Tony's UI. And I want to save that to the desktop. And it's saved successfully. And I'll show you. It's, whoops. It's right there. Tony's UI.cfg. That's the file type. Now you can put that on a thumb drive and take that with you anywhere you go, and you can use your own interface, your customized interface, with all your brushes and all your tools on any machine. Okay, so let's keep going. Here's my basic sphere. I'll turn the mesh on so you can see. It's this button right here, Polyframe. This little button gives you the color, the poly group. This little button gives you the frame. So now you can see up here there's these weird poles, the north and south poles here. I'm not crazy about this mesh, and you'll see why a little bit later, but I like to Z-remesh this sphere. There's a button called Z-remesher right here. It's under Geometry, under the Geometry tab. I like to Z-remesh it right away, the first thing I do. And that'll give me a different topology, because if you hit those poles, it makes your sculpture, it looks kind of weird, and you'll see a little bit more about that later. But I just like to Z-remesh it. Another thing to be mindful of is the active points. This sphere is only 9,000 points right now, which is very, very low, which makes sculpting very quick and very easy. Anything I do to it is going to be very quick because I don't have many points, many active points. Control Z, remember, goes back. I'm going to make sure I have this turned with the Z axis facing me and put symmetry on. Remember, that's the X button. See the two cursors? Right? So I can divide. You'll notice if I try to sculpt on this, I'll just grab a clay brush and try to sculpt on it. You'll notice that it's very faceted. It's very, the quality is not very good. And it's hard to get detail like that. But if you divide it a couple of times, divide, now I have subdivisions. Now you'll notice my point count went up to 597,000, but I have 4 subdivisions. So now if I try to sculpt on it, you'll notice that it's a little tighter. The resolution is much better. And you'll also notice the frame, the difference in the frame. So let's see. But you want to keep your subdivisions. You want to keep the low subdivisions as low as you can while you're moving things around. And you'll notice when I smooth things out, the lower subdivisions smooth much easier. Okay, that's something to be mindful of. So we're not going to worry about high subdivisions right now. I'm going to delete those. So there we go. We got good topology, and now we're kind of ready to go. The first thing I do is bring in my reference. I can't stress that enough about the importance of bringing your reference right into the scene. Now, there are several ways to do it in ZBrush. Some people use something called Spotlight, which I don't really know how to use, but some people use this see-through tab. If you slide that, you can see right through your interface. So if I put reference onto my screen, and use the see-through slider, I can see my reference. But you can't move that reference. I'll have to move my model over the reference, and then the see-through kind of disappears when you start working. So I have a different way that I learned how to do it. I don't use this see-through one. I like to bring in a piece of geometry called a 3D plane, and I'll show you how to do that. Let's see. It's under Subtool. Append, this little append button. I hit append, you'll see this menu open up, and I find 3D plane. And there it is. So now a plane comes in, and you know how I like to approach this? I like to think of this plane as a corkboard, like I'm going to pin my reference on there. Okay, and the nice thing about this is it's geometry, so I can move this around. I could get my gizmo, which I'll show you in a second, and I can move this geometry around. So if my model is right here, I'm sculpting on my model, I can move my reference anywhere in the scene that I want. So I like to do it that way. Let me show you how to bring that in. Let's see. Now, this is you'll notice this is a square, and that's important because my reference has to be square as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Photoshop. And Aaron has given me a drawing to go by. I'm going to bring that into Photoshop. And this is the maquette that we're going to be doing, this bear and the snow bear. But you'll notice this is not a square. So if I bring that in and paste it to my reference plane, my 3D plane, it's going to distort. So I just want to put this on a new document, on a square document, and bring that in. So I go to New. I'm just going to pick a 12 by 12 square document. I'm going to drag the reference onto that square. I'll just do transform scale and just bring it, fill up that square a little bit. Double click, and I'm going to flatten this image so I have just a flat layer. There you go. And I'll save that out as reference to my desktop as a JPEG. And there it is. I can close Photoshop now. And all I need to do to paste that onto this 3D plane is to go to Texture Map. Let's close this menu. Texture Map. And this big, I click on this big square right here. Another menu will drop open. Import. There's my reference. And there you go. It comes in as a piece of geometry. So it comes in upside down for some reason, so I'm just going to rotate it around. These three buttons, rotate, scale, and move. You could use the gizmo. It's kind of a new feature, and rotate it that way. I don't really use the gizmo. I use these three chains. I use rotate, and it's just a chain. You drag out the chain, and you just rotate it that way, because that's the way I learned. The gizmo is a new feature with 2019. And I haven't really used it too much. It's kind of easy to work, but I learned on these old chains, so I use these transposed chains. Whoa. Okay. Control Z. And the nice thing about this is you can treat it like geometry, meaning you can move it, you could sculpt on it. You're not going to want to do that, but I want to get rid of these two white bars. So I hold Shift and Option, Shift and Command. I'm on a Mac, by the way. So I hold Command and Shift, and that will give me
this select rectangle box. And if I hold Alt, that turns it red. That means it's going to crop anything in that box. Okay? If you let go of Alt, Command, Shift, drag out your green box, anything in that green box is going to get saved. Right? Click off the model, it brings it back. It's not gone yet. Anything in the green box will be visible. Click off the object, and it brings it back. So I want to crop these two white bars, so I do Command, Shift, Alt, and I'm going to clip it. I'm going to clip the other side, and I'm going to clip the bottom, and I'm going to clip the top. Now, there's my image that I want to save. I'm just giving myself a little bit more sculpting room, a little bit more real estate on the interface. So now I save this button Delete Hidden on my interface, but it is in here somewhere. I think it's under Geometry. It's under my Geometry tab. There it is, right there. About 3/4 of the way down your Geometry tab is Delete Hidden. So I hit that. Now it's gone. Those white lines are gone. If I click off the model, it's not coming back. Okay? Now, the beautiful part about this is I can take this reference, scale it up. I'm taking the scale transpose chain, dragging it out, and holding Shift and grabbing the last circle, I'm just going to make it bigger. And this is so great. This is so useful. I could put this right behind my model. Right? You can see it's kind of intersecting the model right now, so I'm going to move it back. Move, drag it out. I'm going to turn it sideways and hit the Z axis. Middle circle, pull it back. Now you see where it went? It's behind the model. It's way behind the model now. Now watch what happens when I hit this transparency button. Where is right here, transparency? I can see right through my sphere to my reference. And that's like half the battle is already won for me. I can just take a move brush and shape my clay, my sphere. If I take symmetry off, I hit X to take symmetry off. I could just make this blob of clay into that polar bear shape very quickly, and it's half of the job is done. You're not leaving anything to the imagination. You can line up the silhouette perfectly just by having that transparency button on. Okay, so I'm just going to go back. I'm going to do that a little bit more carefully later, but I just wanted to show you how useful it is to bring in your reference as a 3D plane. Oops. Okay, and I could duplicate it, and I'll put one over here. I'll have one behind him. I could just crop it if I wanted to crop it, and just have, when I'm working on this guy, I could just have that. So it's very useful to bring in these planes. And if I bring in another 3D plane and turn it to the side, if I had a side reference, I could line that up, the profile, right? I could do the same for the back side too. You'll notice these 3D planes are one-sided, so if I turn it to the back, I won't see the 3D plane, right? But if I had a back view of him, which I think I do, I could bring in a back view and do the same thing. Just make sure everything is lined up properly. It's very useful for portraits, especially. If you have a profile of an actor, say, and a straight-on head shot, you could have planes on every side, and it leaves very little to the imagination. You could line up the perfect nose silhouette, the perfect lips, and everything will look right on the money. Okay, so that gives us a good overview of the interface and how I bring in my reference. So let's move on to the next lesson. Now comes the fun part. Now we're going to start sculpting. Okay, we're back, and I think we're in the home stretch now. I think we're ready to start doing something a little bit more fun. First, I'm going to grab a clay brush, and I'm going to try to get some of these folds and wrinkles and masses in here, the big shapes. Then I'm going to take some fur texture and try to apply some cool looking hairs in there, just in spots, just to make it look kind of furry. But first, I just want to bulk up. I've organized my palette here. I mean my menu, my subtool menu. I've got toenails. You can see them light up. Let me turn off the paintbrushes so you can see the color. Okay. We've got toenails, eyeballs, pupils, nose, lashes, eyebrows, fingernails, which are kind of in the wrong place. I'll have to fix those. Main body, snow bear. He's still, I'm going to have to dynamesh those ears to the head. We got some snow clumps on the base, which we might want to put some over here just to add interest. Might want to add some bumps and stuff to the snow. That's the snow and the base, and that's pretty much it. Looking down on the top, I could probably tighten that base up. Let's merge the snow down to the base and get my move tool. I'm just going to squeeze that in just to save a little. Let's go this way. Got a little extra room on that side. Just to center the scene. There we go. Let's see. Group split. Snow, and let's rename that one base again. I don't want to let this get out of hand again. Base. Okay. All right. Now, right off the bat, I see. I mean, I could tweak this thing forever, but I'm going to try to keep moving ahead. Right, I could see that this is too much like a log, and this is kind of like a bell shape. So I'm just going to pull that up. I haven't even been paying attention. I do have subdivisions on this main body, fortunately. So let's go down and pull that and kind of tweak that. This leg is blending into the snow a little as well. So I want to kind of fix that. I think the best way to do that is to kind of push this back. And I'm going to be cheating a little bit. I'm not going to be too married to the reference. I'm just going to kind of make it look as good as I can. So I might cheat a little bit here and there. Just going to scoop them. I got a clay brush, and I'm holding Alt down, so I'm carving. I'm scooping out. Still have subdivisions on that bear as well, so I could smooth that nice and easily. Let's go back to this guy's leg. Well, I lied. I thought I was going to be sculpting fur, but I'm still kind of tweaking. These feet are feeling very small, partially because they're buried in the snow, but I'm going to pull those out a little bit, which means I'm going to have to pull out the nails, the toenails. Just inflating. Okay. Okay, let's see if we could start doing a little bit of sculpting in here. Okay, I'm going to grab my clay brush, clay spin, alpha off, and let's see, let's start with this area right here, this chest and neck area. Let's get a small brush, turn up my intensity a little bit. Whoa, that's too big. Smaller. And I'm just gently stroking in the direction of the fur. I want to build up a couple of rolls of flesh right here, or fur or fat, whatever it is. Kind of takes a downward turn right here and pinches under the armpit. So let's kind of indicate that a little bit. Okay, now let's come this way with the fur. Always thinking about those nice smooth S-curves. Aaron did point out that they do have these massive neck muscles that attach behind the ear just like a person, but I'm thinking this is mostly fur. This is mostly like a scruff around the neck that he's drawn. Let's get a nice pinch right here at the crook of the arm. And again, this is not chest, this is shoulder wrapping around the front. These paws, they have big hairy paws. You don't really see the cool shape. It dips in and then the knuckles come up. You don't really see that like you do in a grizzly, but you do a little bit. So I'm just going to try to indicate that. But they do have these giant round paws, I guess for swimming. That fingernail's got to go. That's bugging me. So I'm just going to try to pull that forward. Let me do it correctly. Let me mask off these and use a transpose chain to pull it rather than pull it with a move brush. It's going to get distorted. You notice like these claws are not all going straight. This one is kind of angled in. This one's angled in, and it adds interest to the. It's a very subtle thing, but it adds interest to the pose and to the character. So let's see what's the best way to do this. How about auto groups? So now everybody's got a separate group, and I'll use that masking feature over here, auto masking. Turn it up to 100. Now anything I touch, it's just going to move that one polygroup, right? We've done that a couple of times. Let's try it again. Let's see. I think I kind of lost a finger, but I'll sculpt that back on. Let's angle this one a little bit in. that. Let's angle this one a little bit in like that. Move that yellow one out. Move the green one out. Okay, let's leave it for now. It was just bugging me because it was like embedded in the, let's just fix that blue one too. There we go. Oh, that needs to be rotated around. Whoa. A little too curved. All right. Okay, let's keep going. Just gonna pull that in a little bit so you can see the fingernails. Okay. These are merged together, but they're not Dynamesh. I'm going to group visible, 103,000. Let's see. Okay, I got 1,000,000. Let's Dynamesh that. Let's Dynamesh this snow bear. I'd like to keep these subdivisions, but that means zero meshing and projecting. Let's Dynamesh first and see what happens. Let's go up. As long as I could stay around 1,000,006, it will keep the detail that I have. No, I don't want to freeze the subdivision. Let's see. Oh, 4,000,000. That's way too much. Let's go back. Dynamesh. No. 800,000. Sounds good. Sounds good. I'll divide again. I just want to smooth out the transition of the ears, so they're not a separate part. Okay. Let me move this in. There you go. That's better. Okay. That'll work. Okay, let's get back to the bear. These feet are killing me. These little toes do not look good. I'm going to have to redo some of that. But in the meantime, let's go back to some fur. Get my clay spin brush. Freehand stroke I like to use. And just follow the direction of the fur. Now the fur bunches up on the arms. It bunches up at the elbow. Kind of comes down. Let's jack up the intensity a little, smaller brush size, and just start drawing. Drawing some fur. Going back and forth between drawing it in and smoothing it down, drawing it in and smoothing it down. Whoa, that's too big. Too small. So you got to keep playing with the intensity and the draw size until you find that sweet spot that you like. I just want to kind of separate the arm from the body using the Damien standard. Whoops. A cool brush for doing hair. I'm not going to use it too much. It kind of, you got to be really careful with it because it really can do a number on your mesh. Is the snake hook. You got to be careful with the intensity. But if I wanted to pull out some stray hairs, let me zoom in so you can see here. You got to be a little careful. Right now it's not that intense. I don't have it set, but it can really do. It can make some nice effects, but it could also destroy your mesh pretty quickly. But I'm not going to use too much of this. Maybe a little bit, but I'm just gonna use it very sparingly. I'm just still blocking things out with my clay brush. Okay, let's move on. Right here where the leg is bent, you're going to have a roll of flesh or muscle or fat or fur. So let's start blocking something like that in. Oh yeah, underneath his chin, there's kind of like a section where it's kind of like hanging down like a beard kind of thing. So let's just try to indicate that a little bit. Let's solo this so I can get under there. Just kind of. So let me save my progress before I crash. Save Bear 26. And I want to show you a cool. Did I lose my? I guess I lost my poly paint on this snow bear, on the snow somehow. I didn't do too much. I mean, it was white with a little blue shadow, so that's easy enough. I'll just select skin shade, white, select the snow bear. Did I Z-remesh it? I don't know how I lost that, but no big deal. I could just select material, RGB, fill object. Now it's white again. I'll get a light blue, standard brush, freehand stroke, lazy mouse off, Z add off, RGB on. You got that? It's just RGB, freehand, standard brush. That's it. And I could quickly just put some indication of a blue shadows on him again. No big deal. I didn't go too far with that. Whoa. Maybe drop a shadow under that arm. I don't know, maybe get even a darker blue, and let's try that spotted alpha just to give it a little bit of texture, a little bit of an airbrush feel. And there's all kind of cool stuff you can play with the paint, and they have like spray. You got a spray brush, which actually sprays it on there. You got color spray, which picks colors around this, so you'll have like a range of colors around this blue. But anyway, I just wanted to block that in again. I lost it somehow. Let's actually drop some on his legs here. Okay, I've been neglecting the backside, so let's get around to the back and start putting some smooth, take add offs, just smooth the RGB, and it's going to smooth some of those dots out. Okay. All right, what was I going to do? Let's just sculpt some fur in the back. Let's grab my clay spin and just again in the direction that the fur would naturally fall. I'm just going to go probably like that, right? And it would meet at the elbow. Maybe I'll try a little bit of this. Oh, you see that? I've got RGB on, so it's pulling out with the color on. So I'm going to Z back, take RGB off, and just kind of pull out some tufts at the elbow. Maybe even one or two up here, smaller ones. Nope, too small. Okay, let's just go back with the clay brush and just keep going. Now this is, but I've got material and RGB on, and that's why I'm painting. I'm actually sculpting and painting at the same time, which I kind of don't want to do. I want to control the paint a little bit better than that. So I'm going to turn that off and just have add. So that's just sculpting. That's just affecting the clay. That's not going to lay down any paint. Okay, so this this blade, shoulder blade is kind of back, and this upper arm is kind of back. This is stretching. So again, I want to not forget about that cool S-curve. We want to keep that if we can. Put that ridge right down, right down the back. Hold down Alt where the spine would be, and the butt would separate right there. Let go of Alt just to build up some fur. I don't know what their tail looks like. Do they have a little nub? Yeah, it looks like they have a little nub over here. Just kind of indicate a tail. Okay, I just want to bulk up this side because it's squashing. Another animation term, squash and stretch. If you ever taken an animation class or know anything about animation, you've heard squash and stretch a million times. This side is squashing. Even the rolls of fat, I want to kind of use an S-curve if I can. It's kind of a nice, appealing shape. Once I get into the super tertiary stuff, I could, make this look like the snow is squashed and there's like a fat roll right where it hits the ground, but I'm just still focusing on bigger areas than that right now. I definitely want to go in and fix these feet. They look like Fred Flintstone feet right now and too small, but I'll get to that. They just look weird and distorted. I think part of it is because it's sunk in the snow, but they also look thin and dainty. So I'll fix those feet. Let's see what else. I think that's a little too wide. This upper arm is way too wide. So I'm going to pull that in. I'm going to pull that back. Pull that in. It's really important to keep turning the model. You see this line right here? Anytime you can get soft curves like that, or straights against curves. All right, let's pull this out, or push the snow bear in, one or the other. There we go. Okay. Again, I just want to emphasize, I want to try to cheat and push this shoulder up and this shoulder down a little bit, just to cheat that, show that a little bit more, that nice angle there. This hip, I'd like to cheat a little bit if I can. Looks pretty flat from the back. Yeah, somehow that butt is getting flat. And the belly is looking a little large too. So you can see at this point it's like tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. Just keep turning it. Sometimes it helps to turn the color off. Get a different material and you can see things a lot more clearly. And that fur kind of looks messy. Oh, that's because I have RGB on. Let's go back. What is going on? I'm smoothing the material. So, oh, okay. I'm smoothing RGB instead of Z add. Turn that off. Now, there we go. So I'm just going to go back and forth for a little while and smooth and add and smooth and add. But what I want to do quickly, I want to show you a cool brush. But what I need to do is save Polar Bear 27. Save my progress. And I need to open up ZBrush 2020. For some reason, I have these cool brushes, but for some reason they don't work with 2019. I have them in 2019. They're hair brushes. They're actually fur brushes. And they're available online and they're free. I think no, I don't think they're free. I think they're like $10 or something like that. But I'll show you where to get them. They're fur brushes. There's also hair brushes, anything you need. ZBrush has a bunch of free stuff on their website. But I bought these fur brushes, and I'd like to show you real quick. I saved my progress. Let me open up 2020. I haven't really moved everything over to 2020 yet. I have my interface over there. There's a couple of new features in 2020, but every time ZBrush upgrades, it's great because it's a free upgrade. It's always been free, which is fantastic. But every time they upgrade, you have to move your custom brushes and your brushes that you've purchased and brushes that you've gotten for free and your materials that you might have found and your alphas that you may have found online. You got to move all that stuff over to a folder in 2020 in a startup folder. So then it's a pain in the neck. It's not complicated. It's just a pain in the neck to move everything over. So I haven't done that yet. That's why I'm not using 2020. But I did move a couple of brushes over because they only work with 2020. So I want to open up this model in 2020 and show you these cool brushes that you can use. The nice thing about ZBrush is if you created a model in 2019 version, it will open in 2020, no problem. The bad thing is it doesn't go the other way. Yeah. So if you create something, like if I save this, I won't be able to open it again in 2019. So I'm just going to do this as a little quick demo. I'm not going to save it. Maybe I will if I like the hair, the way the hair ends up. Maybe I'll save it and just keep working, and I'll have to move all my stuff over tonight, I guess. But anyway, there's a brush in here. It is a hair or a fur brush. There's several, actually. This one is called Fur ZBG Standard. It's a standard brush, but they modified it. And here's the alpha. It's just a fur alpha that somebody created, probably in Photoshop. So if I adjust the intensity, let me just zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. I got 1,000,009. That should be pretty good. Maybe the intensity is too much. Let me get a bigger one. But you can see how quickly you can cover a model in a beautiful fur texture. You know, and you can just keep going with the smooth brush. And that's one of them. That's pretty cool, right? That's one of them. And here's another one. Long hair. I don't know what this one. This one's kind of a different alpha. The intensity is a little hard there, so let me turn that down. But this is for like longer hair, maybe on the legs over here. So there's so many cool features that you can find. I think I don't think these were very expensive. This was on a site called Zbrush Guides, and you could find these brushes. I don't think it's that expensive. It's probably like $10 for the pack of these brushes. The fur and the alphas are just slightly different. This is like a thicker fur. You know, this might be good for the scruff. You know, and it depends. I mean, we're not really doing a realistic bear, so we want to use these things sparingly if we did use them at all, but you get the idea. If you were sculpting a realistic bear, this would be cool stuff to have. And that's about it. Let's see. I want to load up this tool. This is something I'm working on. This is a model I'm working on. This is based on a Frank Frazetta painting. And I used the standard brush with a fur alpha. But there's so many. There's like skin textures, snake skin, and tortoise shells, and anything you want, it's out there. And usually it's free. Or very inexpensive. What the heck? Where is the cat? Oh, there we go. There's the cat. So this is a model I'm working on, and all of this fur texture was done with a standard brush, this brush, and a freehand, no, not a freehand stroke, a rectangle, drag rectangle, and this fur right here, this little fur alpha. So if let's see, if I smooth out an area, let me zoom in. Now this is the drag rectangle stroke, and what all that is it will drag out this fur, and it will overlap it. You could change the intensity, and you could see it right here. You could see the little, and I just went really small and covered the whole cat with this, and this one is a little different. But you could see, and there's realistic ones, there's cartoony ones, but you could see the power of, these alphas and stuff like that. So I just wanted to show those brushes and what you can do. Maybe I will use some of this fur stuff on this bear. I'll have to see what Aaron says. Maybe a little bit, like around the elbows and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's just going to be sculpting it by hand, one stroke at a time. You get the standard brush and just get rid of that alpha. Freehand stroke, and just you can do it by hand like that. So I just wanted to show that really quick. I'm going to close out. I don't want to save it because it won't go back to 2019. And then I can open 2019 again. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to continue on and just keep sculpting this fur in. And I want to get with Aaron and see how much fur he wants, and what style, if the style is correct. And we'll finish up tomorrow. I think we're pretty close. Tomorrow I want to just touch on a few things like preparing the model for printing, and maybe cutting pieces off and keying them so they go back together after printing. So let's wrap it up for today, and we'll pick it up right there tomorrow.
Okay, so we've reached a point now, I think, with Tony's sculpture that we can start doing little tweaky notes. And this is something that we would always do at Disney. When we were designing our characters, we would get them to the point where they were 95% there. And it's that last little 5% that really gets it to sing. And so whether it's, designing our characters in 2D or getting them done in 3D, which is what Tony would do, there would definitely, you know, there's, and I'm always talking about it in our other courses where you start with the broad, you go, you know, really broad, get your big shapes, get everything worked out, and you work towards your details. And it's those details that will kind of pull everything together. And that's where we're at now. So what we've done is Tony went ahead and grabbed a couple of frames of some rotations of the sculpt and sent them to me. And I went over them this morning and drew some notes. And this is how Tony and I in the past, you know, when we were working on Brother Bear, and Tony would sculpt our characters for that, he would send me photos and I would do the same thing. I would draw over them, and this is how we would get them to finish out. So with that in mind, let's jump back to the other one, the heads. And so everything is pretty, it's for me, it's like 99% there. It's just there's a softness overall, and I think some of the little details have been softened out of it. Like remember, if you look on here, this to me is like an anchor point. And so there's the cheekbone. Mm-hmm. And so there's muscle that comes down, and then there's the muscle that comes out. And so it's just a matter of adding a little bit of, just a harder definition there of the plane change. Right. Right now it's just really soft. The same thing with the snout right here. You know, there's this point right in here. And on this bear, it's a little bit soft. But this is a nice little anchor point right here, especially for when we're doing expressions and he scrunches his nose. Mm-hmm. This is nice to get wrinkled up, so I like to have just a little bit more definition there. And then also, once again, the overall notes are just kind of pushing definition a little bit. Here, it's just pulling the nose up a little bit. You can see in the screen grab, it's just a little smaller and it's a little soft. I like to hit this definition, which is that nasal bone, and then it's cartilage right there, everything that goes out. So I always like to do a little bit of a plane change, and then it comes out to the nose. Under here, it's just that little beard, and that beard just comes in, you know, tapers into a little edge, and then, you know, you just break it up for fur. That's not a big deal. For the snout, I like to have it once again, I want to get that little plane change from the plane of the nose, and then a little change going out. A little bit of definition in the cheek, the way that comes in, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Pulling the chin out just slightly. They're all really small. Oh, the eyes are pretty much round. And if we can just find the corners, and just to find the corners just a little bit, so that we feel that there's a lower lid and maybe a little cheek, and then the upper lid. And the way that we've done it here, I've done it here and here, so that you can feel that there's an axis to the eye. Same thing here. I kind of redrew it there. In the front view, can we jump over to the front view? I didn't do it on here. Oh, I'm sorry, go back real quick. And once again, there's that little ridge. You know, there's the ridge on the skull. Right. There's that ridge where the muscle comes in. And once again, that's just a tiny little bit of definition. And then just where the brow meets the skull, I like to define that just a little bit as well. And rather than being really smooth, maybe just a little harder plane break where the brow comes around. Okay. Let's jump to that front view, because I just want to show you what I did with the eyebrows. So the eyebrows were pretty much the same. So I just pulled one up a little bit, pushed one in a little bit, opened this eye slightly, scrunched this eye slightly.
That's twinning, right? That's
But it's just a tiny little thing that'll help pull that expression. Right. I always talk about it as the greater than and less than. I learned it from Glenn Keane. So you open it up one way, you know, like back in, you know, math class when you had the greater than and less than.
Oops, sorry.
That's all right. So that pretty much takes care of the head. Does that all make sense to you?
Yeah, great.
And then let's go to the back. So here, I pulled that shoulder blade back even more, because the shoulder blades, I know I was saying that they're on the side, but it's really kind of like, it's at an angle. So it's still going to come back a little bit here. And so I just wanted to push a little bit more meat right in here. It's just taking that where you have the indent right there and just pulling it out. Getting a little bit more meat here, a little bit more meat here, pulling this one down a little bit. You can see here I tapered the upper arm was getting a little parallel, so I tapered it away, going this way. Put a little bit of a harder break in the shoulder, a little bit more of a break along where the thigh comes down to get a little bit more of a fat roll there. The first thing I did was just follow your line that you did, and I love that S curve. That contrapposto is perfect. And then I put a little bit of once again, all these are, you showed me yesterday, it's like you got some kind of brush that just draws a line in them. Yeah, so I mean, it really is, I think it's just a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Just giving a little definition to where his butt starts coming off of his back, getting a little roll there. I think when we get to the details, we can break up some fur in some of those areas, but that's it there. And I think, let's go to the paws, because the paws are the last thing. And these, I drew this really quick. Go up to this layer and just turn it off and on. You can see the difference if you turn it off and on, how I pull those toes back just to get it to round it out. So it's basically taking that toe and this toe and just pulling them back so you get a more rounded feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it. Oh, and then down here, I forgot to, I don't know if I brought that drawing, shoot. I just filled out this foot. It's really just filling out the top, so it's more like that. Just filling out the top of that foot a little bit.
Okay.
But that's it.
That's good stuff. It's easy stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not that bad. All right, great.
All right.
What I'm probably going to do, if it's okay, I'm going to go back a couple of versions and grab the symmetrical head, and we'll work on the symmetrical head.
Okay.
Because it's easier if I have the head just,
right
in symmetry. It's easier to just, tweak the eyebrows and stuff.
Okay.
Looking right at me, as opposed to kind of trying to.
Yeah, I got you.
I could cut it off the model and bring it into.
It's however you want to do it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. And the
know,
paw too. I'll probably
yeah.
start from scratch on the paw and just have it, an oval shape and
Okay.
make a good paw and then bring it in and attach it.
Here too, turn that layer on and off. It's very slight, but see how I pulled a little bit of meat out here to get it to bunch up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and just to get it to feel a little less. It's thicker down here than it is up here, just to get it to fill out a little bit. All these little tweaks are like line width tweaks, but they make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, man, let's go.
All right, thanks.
Okay, guys, let's pick up where we left off. I've got some good notes here from Aaron. I brought them into the Zbrush interface. You could see I've got some notes. I've got some notes on the paws and the head, and kind of the just some general shapes in the back of the body. So what I'm going to do, what I think is the best way to do this is I'm going to go back to my symmetrical version and pull that head. Usually I will keep a head. I will keep a symmetrical head just in case. But I forgot about it and I just posed it. I can do these changes right to this head, and it probably wouldn't be too difficult, but I just want to make sure that it's correct. And I'm going to grab, fortunately I saved the T-pose version, if you remember. So I'm just going to go to Load Tool, and I'm going to find my folder, Z Tools, and there it is. It's Polar Bear 20, no, that's, here we go, Polar Bear 14 T-pose. So I'm just going to load that one up and grab that head and pull it into this scene. And it's not going to be much to just attach this symmetrical head to the posed body once I make these changes. Okay, so I want the skull. Let's see, I want the skull. I don't want the neck. The ears, the eyelids, I want that. Let's see, the lashes, the nose. That's it. So I'm just going to grab all these, hide all these parts that I don't want, merge the parts that I do want, and then simply append it to my latest version. Okay, so it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. There's my head, perfectly symmetrical. And let's see. Good topology. 4, oh beautiful, 4 subdivisions. I don't think I have poly paint on here yet, but that's okay, that's easy enough. Okay, great, let's merge them down. Let's see if I have 4 subdivisions on each. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, oops. 4, yep. And 4 on the lashes. Yep. Okay, great. That's great. So let's merge these down. Actually, I could do merge visible. I could hit merge visible, and that'll merge everything that's visible. So I hid everything else. I turned all the eyeballs off, right? So if I hit merge visible, it should keep the subdivisions. So there it is, merged skull. Let's click that. There it is, all one. I've kept my polygroups, and I've kept my subdivisions. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my scene, which is this one. My current scene, my current version. And I'm going to hit append and find that merged skull right there. And it comes right in here, right in the middle of the scene. So you remember, this is where we sculpted him originally, right here. If you turn the floor on, you can see that head is right in the middle of the scene, at least on the x-axis it is. But we posed him and we moved him over, so that's great. So that's perfectly symmetrical. Let's hide everybody except him and the reference. So let's see, this is the new reference, and that's the new head. Okay, we don't need the paw reference, and we don't need the back reference. So all we need is these 2 new reference images that Aaron provided. And I'm just going to move it right next to him. I'm going to grab this one and move that up. Actually, you know what? That is the profile. This is kind of a profile, so I think I'm going to turn this reference. I'm going to turn this reference to the profile. Let me duplicate it, and I'll rotate it to the profile. Hold shift to snap it, and there it is. So now I've got it both in the front and on the profile. Okay, let's put it right there. Okay, great. All right, I think I'm ready to go. Let's move that. I just don't want it to intersect the model. It's a little distracting. Let's put it right there. And let's, you know what? Let's duplicate it again and flip it around the other side. What happened? Oh, I deleted it. I deleted it instead of duplicating it. Sorry about that. Okay, just bear with me one second. I got the paws, I got the back, I got the profile, and I got the head. Okay, I deleted. I hit delete is right under duplicate, so I deleted it. So let me rotate it again. I'll duplicate, drag out the transpose chain, right? Go to the top view and grab the last circle and kind of in an arc, I just drag it, rotate it, and snap with the shift key. Perfect. Now I want to do it on the other side as well, so I'm going to duplicate this again. Right, there it is. And I could do it by hand. I could rotate it by hand like I just did using the chain, or I can go to the deformation palette, which is right here, and I could rotate it right here on, let's see, that would be 180 degrees on the y-axis, I'm thinking, right? The up and down axis. Let's do 180 degrees on the y-axis. Hit enter or return, and it should be, oh, it's there. It rotated it, but it's backwards. So let's hit mirror. No, not mirror on the X. Let's hit mirror on the Y. What's going on? Oh, maybe it was on the X. Mirror on the X. No. Let's try mirror on the Z. Yes, okay, there we go. Alright, we're ready. I think the writing is backwards, but that's okay. I can see what he wanted. Alright, so now we have all our reference in place and ready to go. Let's start with the front view. I just want to double check and be sure that this is perfectly, yeah, 0. It's right in the middle. Okay, we're ready to go. Let's mask. Doesn't look like there's too much changes to the actual skull. It's the features really. So let's do this one first. I'm gonna select the ears, the eyelids, the eyelashes. Oh, okay, that's all one sub. Let me get polygroups, auto groups. There we go. And mirror and weld. I can't do that with subdivisions, so I'll have to do it by hand. Just want the same polygroups for each eyeball, each ear, group visible, right? All I'm doing is selecting. I'm holding Control, Shift, Alt, selecting this eyebrow, selecting that eyebrow, and they disappear, and then I hit Control or Command Shift, drag out a green box, and that inverts it. Group visible, click off the model, brings everything back. Let me just polygroup the pupils together. Group visible. Alright, I'll do that again slowly. I'm going to do the eyelids now. Command, Shift, Alt, click on an eyelid, click again and it disappears. Click on an eyelid. Now they're both gone. I want to bring back the eyelids and hide everything else, right? So I do Command, Shift, drag out a select rectangle box, green. Remember, if you hit Alt, it turns red. If you let go of Alt, it's green. Let go, there's my eyelids. And I just hit Group Visible, and now they're both the same polygroup. And all I have left is the eyelashes, right? So I do Command, Shift, click, click, click. Drag it out, Group Visible. Okay, now I'm ready to go, finally. So what I was going to do is mask everything except the skull. So let me select the skull, and I can do this like I was just doing and mask everything, and then bring the skull back. Or I could double click the skull. I can click the skull, mask the skull, bring everything back, and hold Control, click, and invert the mask. Either way works. Same thing. Okay, let's get busy. So the first thing I'm going to address is this the bump on the bridge of the nose. It says pull bridge of snout up a little, and I don't know if you can see. Whoops! I don't know if you can see this. This is where the bone, the ridge of the bone ends, and the rest is cartilage. So that's what he wants. He wants a little bit. Mine is too soft. It's too much of a slope. So let's just. I'm going to bring my reference down a little bit so I can see. Okay, great. Let's just grab a move brush. Make sure symmetry is on, right? It's not on right now because I only have one cursor, right? Now I'm going to hit the X key. Let's see. There it is. Okay, there's my two dots. You see my two dots converging in the middle? Let's see. Snout shape. He wants more of a, it looks kind of like a pinch over here, like a kind of a box, like a rectangle up here. But let's get that bridge first. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? Saving. Okay, there we go. Let's get a move topological brush and kind of pull. No, I don't think so. Let's see. What's the best way to do this? I'm going to go down 2 subdivisions. I'm going to pull it up this way. I'm going to use that pinch brush eventually. I mean, that's what he wants, but that's kind of a little exaggerated, I think. And at the same time, I can see that the brow is much flatter. My brows are way up here. So I'm going to have to flatten that way down. And the reason that I brought the symmetrical head in is just for this reason. Because doing this on both sides, it would start to get wonky. It wouldn't match, you know? And it's not going to match in the end because one eyebrow is raised, but that's okay. I want to get the general shape of this skull correct before I start posing eyebrows and stuff, right? So my head was a little bit too soft, and I think Aaron wants a little bit more ridges, and this skull is much flatter. So of course I'm going to have to go back and adjust the eyebrows, but that's nothing. I just want to get that shape better. So we got the nose is going to come up, but we're going to go up and then down and then up and then slope down. So we got up and then down. Let me just pull that in a little bit more. I might go down one more subdivision to my lowest subdivision. You can see how easy it is to move things when you're at your lowest subdivision. Okay. Let's go back up and see better. Oh, you know what? I'm going to turn on bling. I mean, not bling. Blend material so I can see. It gives it a little shine to it, and you can see the reflections, and you can see the surface a little better. Okay, that's cool. It doesn't look like he changed too much about the smile, so just going to zhuzh that up a little bit. There is a cheekbone, which is right here. That's what he's talking about. I'll pull that out a little bit. I need to define these shapes a little bit better. And that's where I'm going to grab the trim dynamic. I'm going to get a small brush size, put my mouse aside and grab the stylus. I'm going to start drawing now. And I'm just going to start planing, putting planes in here. Everybody has seen those anatomical models where they show the planes of the head, right? And that's always a good starting point if you start with planes and then smooth out later. All right. It just helps you see these bony landmarks, these bony ridges. Okay, I'm not worried about the eyes yet. I want to get this snout correct. Okay, let's just start to give a plane there. Because he wants, for expressions, if they animate this bear, for expressions, you want that little ridge right there, that little crinkle right there. So I don't have it. I don't have it at all, actually. I'm going to grab the Damien standard and sketch it in. That's kind of what he wants. And he wants it to wrap around, and then this part to wrap around like that. So let's go back. That right here is where the ridge is going to go, I guess. And the cheek, we're going to kind of go right here. We want to define this right here, slightly more defined cheekbone. So let's just sketch right there where it's going to go. This area right here. What else can we do from these drawings? The beard, that's on the body. That's okay. We'll do that later. Slightly more chin. We can hit that. Now, you can see the chin is in shadow. So I'm going to adjust my lights. And you go up to light, right here, top menu, light. And that little orange dot, you grab it. You can see the cursor turns into a Mickey Mouse glove. You just grab it and drag it down. And that'll show you, that'll let you see better underneath. Okay, what did we say? Slightly more chin, top lip out. So, slightly more chin. Let's get a bigger move brush. And I think we gotta go even bigger than that. Bigger? Oh, go down with your subdivisions. Always go down with your subdivisions when you're moving. It'll move things quicker and you won't distort as much. Slightly more chin. Let's go down again and turn it this way. There we go. Let's just pull that chin out this way. Right? And slightly more upper lip, so let's pull that out as well while we're here. Whoa. Whoops. There we go. Something like that. Okay. Nice. Okay. Keep turning it from every angle always. I don't like that right in the middle there. Let's smooth that out. Let's just make it a nice soft transition. All right, let's adjust. That's a little exaggerated. I don't know if we want it that exaggerated. I just want to get that shape. But I'm going to tuck the smile back behind the cheek. I'm feeling that the snout is a little long. It's hard to tell. But let's adjust that nose too while we're here. Let's fix the lights again. Oh, okay, the nose, this is all one. I didn't break this down, so this is all one. The nose is masked, so let's invert the mask. Grab the nose, make sure symmetry is on, right? And just pull the tip of that nose up. Like that. Slightly back. And I didn't put nostril. I haven't put any nostrils yet, so we're going to have to do that too while we're here. It looks like this nose is coming down a little bit further. I think mine is a little bit too exaggerated. But as soon as I make these changes, I'll get Aaron back in here and have him take a look. Okay. Let's see. Okay, while we're on this nose, let's put these nostrils in there. That shouldn't be too difficult. Let's go back to our highest subdivision and grab a clay brush. Freehand stroke, no alpha. Z add, no color, no material. And just holding down Alt. Let me just adjust that. Holding down Alt, I'm just going to scoop out the nostrils. Small draw size. Bring up the intensity a little. Alt. Whoa, that's too much. Oh, I got a move brush. Okay. Get back to that clay brush. Alt and scoop. I'm just going in a circular motion. I'm just starting to scoop out the nostrils. Now this line here, I think, represents the ridge. That's not the size of the nose, that's the ridge. In perspective, that would be this line right here. I still think my nose might be a little bit big. So I'm going to mask everything else off again. I'm going to just leave the nose. Right? Let's mask everything off except the nose. Then I'm going to hit scale and just go down slightly. Maybe not. I'm going to check with the boss first. I'm going to check with Aaron. I don't know. Let me go back to sculpting. I'm just going to smooth this out now. Go down a couple of subdivisions and smooth out that nostril. And you can see it's kind of like a dog's nose, where it comes down and you can't really see. It comes down and goes up. It's like a little crease there, a flap. So let me try to get that in there. Grab the Damien standard, Dam standard, small draw size, and just kind of sketch where I'm going to go. Go back up in subdivisions and sketch where I'm going to go with that. It doesn't look like he's got a line down the middle. I'm not sure about that. But just sketching in what I want to do. Let's go back down and smooth that out. Back up one, smooth it out. Back up one and smooth out that messiness. And now at least I have a guide where I want to put that crisp line. So let's get the Damien standard again. Nice and small. I want to jack up my lazy mouse a little bit and just gently draw that line in. So you can see it's like It's like doing a drawing. You sketch it in first, like these sketchy lines. I'm going to smooth those out. And then I put my final line in there, which is actually what I did at Disney Feature Animation. I was a cleanup artist. I was an in-betweener. Aaron was an animator. He would do the rough drawings. Then he would give me the roughs, and I would lay another sheet of paper over it with a light behind it and do the fine line, the cleanup. So it's kind of come full circle, I guess. You might say. 30 years later, jeez. Okay, so let me unmask. It's kind of hard to tell. This is looking a little elongated to me, but it's hard to tell without the neck. I mean, if you just kind of squint and just look at this shape, the skull shape, I don't think it's too long. But we'll see. We'll ask him what he thinks. Anyway, let me define these cheeks a little bit better. Let's go back to that. Let's select the skull, mask it, bring everything back, and tap off the mask, holding Control to invert the mask. Now everything's masked except the skull. I won't disturb anything else, right? Not Damien Standard. Trim Dynamic. I'm just going to give some planes to that cheek. Just define that a little bit. Smooth out these rough lines that I put in. And you can see I'm at 1,000,005 in points, and it's not smoothing very well, right? If I take that down 2 subdivisions to 95,000, those lines are going to go away instantly when I smooth. Let's go up to 3 and just do that carefully and gently as opposed to just wiping it clean. All right, I'm going to leave that line right there for now until I define that a little bit better. This needs to be pushed in. You can see in this drawing right here, where is it? In this drawing, you can see that it goes around, it goes in, and then it comes around again. I don't have that yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the pinch brush, highest level, and I'm just going to go run the pinch brush over the surface here to get that sharper. And when you remember, when you hold Alt, it does the opposite. So if I'm pinching geometry, let's turn the color off, maybe we can see that better. If I'm pinching that and bringing that all to a point, if I hold Alt, it's going to push it in. It's going to do the opposite. So let's do that. Let's get a little bit more intensity, smaller draw size. I'm holding Alt with the pinch brush, and it's kind of pushing in. It's hard to see, but it's pushing that in and creating that wah, wah, you know, it's creating that bump, that indent with the two. And it's messy. If I turn the topology on, you can see how messy that is. So I'm going to have to Z-remesh at some point. But at least it will keep my detail. It will keep that detail that I want. I'm going to do the same thing to try to get this right here. See that? That kind of seagull shape, womp, womp, right here. So hold Alt, womp, womp. Okay, that's what I want. And then run the pinch again. That's kind of what I want. I'm holding Alt with the pinch brush and pushing in right there. And it's kind of creating a cheek for me. Alt, push in. It's the opposite of the pinch brush. And now maybe I'll pinch right here just to give that a little ridge. Okay, so I completely destroyed, I created planes, but I completely destroyed my topology that I had. So before I fix it, I'm just going to go crazy with the pinch brush and really get some nice sharp lines. Now I go back and forth several times with this pinch brush, constantly Z-remeshing, but I'm just trying to save you guys from having to watch that. But it's part of the process. It's a great brush, the pinch brush. It's just very powerful. You're going to be careful when you use it. Okay, so now I've got my bony landmarks and my ridges and my indents that I want, but my topology is a nightmare. So what I'm going to do is clear the mask, separate my polygroups. I'm going to hide everything except the skull. Right? Separate the polygroups. Group split. And you can see I have here are my eyelids, my nose, my brows, and my lashes. And there's the skull. So let's send that down to the bottom. Select only the skull. And now I'm going to have to Z-remesh this. Let's see if there's anything else I need to do. Oh yeah, okay, this is a good one. We forgot about, I don't know if it's in these notes or if Aaron just told me to do it. Told me about it. It's not in that, it's not in that. Let me see these notes again. Well, it's drawn in right here. You can see the center of the skull. He wanted that center ridge where the two big muscles of the skull right here that go right here, they kind of meet. The two big skull muscles, they kind of meet in the middle, and there's a ridge right there, right here. So I'm going to do that. Before I Z-remesh, I'm going to do that. I don't think it's in any of his notes written, but you can see it. You can see the line. Before I remesh, I want to do that, and let's see if there's anything else that I can hit. Looks like he's giving him a little lip, a little lower lip, which is not in the main artwork, but it's not here, but I see it right there. And also, yeah, there is a center line in the nose, so I should check on that. I could do that later. I don't need symmetry to do that. That's tiny, tiny stuff. So let me draw a lip. Let's get a standard brush instead of the clay spin and just kind of draw a lip. It's all kind of bumpy. Ooh, I don't like that. Let's get rid of that. You know what? I'm gonna create a lip. Instead of kind of pulling it out, I'm just gonna create a lip. I'm gonna append a sphere. It should be, where is it? Where the heck is it? Where's my sphere? Oh, there it is, down there. Okay. And I'm just going to turn that into a lip very quickly. Like that. Like that. Just move it into place. Scale it way down. And I'm just going to dynamesh it to the skull before I Z-remesh. I don't know, I just like building things in parts. I have parts for everything as opposed to just trying to pull it out of the clay. To me, this feels like grabbing a little roll of clay and putting it on and shaping it, as opposed to trying to fight with my topology. You know what I mean? I don't have symmetry on. Let's put that at 0 on the x-axis, right there, 0. Let's put symmetry on. got a move brush. I'm just going to kind of move it into a lip shape and then move it back into position. That's what I'm going for right there. Let's zoom in and just kind of push it right back into the head a little bit. Maybe too much. All right, let's leave it there, and we can Dynamesh and smooth it later. I'm just going to inflate it a little bit. Okay, it's a little big, but just a slight indication of his lower lip. I don't see it on any of these drawings except this one. I know the grizzly has the prominent lower lip, but I don't know about this guy. I want to get this angle right here. Boom, boom. He's got a sharp angle. In the artwork, in the other artwork, he's got it. It's rounded, but it's kind of rounded. But I kind of like that that plane break. So let me try to get that just a little bit. Oh, it's too much. You know, while I'm destroying topology, I want to destroy it all in one shot, because now I'm going to Z-remesh, and I don't want to keep Z-remeshing because it's boring on a tutorial to wait for things, right? Wait for the computer. This is not cooperating. Trim dynamic. Yeah, my topology is a mess, so I'm gonna have to do something about this. Okay, we're wasting too much time. Let's merge this down. Merge down. Group visible. Let's just duplicate. Oh yeah, we need to duplicate because we need to project. So let's go Dynamesh. Actually, we're not ready to duplicate. Let's Dynamesh first. So delete that one. Dynamesh this one. Dynamesh. There we go. Dynamesh. Okay, very good. Let's just smooth that out a little bit. Now we duplicate. Right? We got our skull right here. Duplicate. Go back to this first one. And we want to hide everything. If you have other things on, it's going to project onto your model. So the only thing we want on when you project is the new one and the one you're projecting. So let's take a look at our topology. What happens? You can see how dense this Dynamesh skull is, right? So let's Z-remesh, turn off Dynamesh, Z-remesh. It shouldn't take too long, it's only 600,000. Just give it a second, it's running. Okay. There it is. That's our nice new topology. There's our old topology, our Dynamesh topology. You can see how dense that is. And there's our new topology. Very nice. You can see all that pinching is gone, and you got a nice flow here, but we don't want to lose these ridges. So I'm going to divide. I'm only at 9,000, so let's divide. Let's get, and you can see how smooth it is as opposed to the other one. We don't want this messiness, but we want these ridges. And I don't want to pinch anymore if I could avoid it. So we go to the lowest subdivision and watch what happens. Project. Boom. Project. Project. Well, I missed one. Project. And and project. I can't tell you how many times I do this. I use this Z-remesher / project all constantly because I'm always messing my topology up, and I'm always I don't want to lose my details, so I project it, duplicate, project constantly. I don't know if that's a good workflow. It's probably not. It's probably counterproductive. I'm sure people have different methods, but that's just kind of the way I kind of figured it out myself. I kind of self-taught with Zbrush, just watching tutorials, and once I saw that, I was like, yeah, that works for me. So at the end of the day, it's whatever gets you from point A to point B. If you're happy and the art director's happy and you get the job done and it looks okay, that's what counts.